Giants.
Well, giant, right, and that's why they thought early in the Bible when Moses and the Israelites come to the Promised Land, which is Israel, and they're in Jordan, and they send spies out to Jericho and things like that, and the spies come back, but they're seeing in Lebanon and other areas these giant buildings like Baalbek, and they report back to Moses, and they said, "Man, these guys are giants. They're the Anakim, the Nephilim, and all that." And they're to them, they're thinking these guys must be 12, 15 feet tall, stuff like that. And people were taller in ancient times. People and all animals and plants, we've all been getting smaller in the last, say, million years or so. Everything on this planet's getting smaller, really, not bigger. People have been getting smaller too. Cro-Magnon man was taller than us with a bigger brain. The idea that people were more like 7, 8 feet tall in the past, that was more standard. There were pygmies and miniature people too. What has taken really the average height of people down is mankind's favorite sport, and that's warfare. So warfare is like a football game or a rugby game. You're putting the big guys up front, and they get killed. So warfare basically takes the average height of people down several inches. The Napoleonic Wars took the average height of the French people down by several inches. The French aren't really known to be very tall today, and a lot of that's because all the tall people got killed in the Napoleonic Wars. But this is kind of what's happened really throughout history, is that the giants, the really tall people have been killed in wars. And they're thought to, and that's one of the stories of the Bible where David kills Goliath. Okay, Goliath is the giant symbol warrior of the Philistines. So when they have to have a one-on-one battle, they choose Goliath. He's the biggest of all of them. But when the much smaller David goes into battle with him, David uses his slingshot, hits him in the forehead with a big stone, and kills him. And didn't matter how tall he was, he was not. He wasn't invulnerable to a projectile from a slingshot. That's what, in a similar way too, with that, crossbows are what really made armor, unusable. Once they invented the crossbow, and exactly when the crossbow was invented, that made wearing armor totally useless, because a crossbow was an armor-piercing weapon. It could pierce the armor that these knights and stuff were wearing. So once they had the crossbow, they stopped wearing armor anymore because it wouldn't protect them. And back to giants, yeah, it's the big guys all get killed, and it's the smaller, shorter people who live on. So, and we see that with animals too. In the Pleistocene era, just say 20,000 years ago, here in North America, all the animals were bigger. We had giant cave bears, dire wolves, giant elk, giant sloths, giant woolly rhinos running around. I mean, everything was bigger. I mean, about twice as big as what it is today.
So you think the idea of giants, there wasn't like Jack and the Beanstalk giants running around. It was just people were just taller.
Right, and some people were taller. Certain nations are tall. The Dutch and the Norwegians are very tall. Polynesians are supposedly the tallest race. Tongans and Samoans, Hawaiians, they are big. They're tall. If you get on a plane to Tonga or Samoa, most of the people, including the women, will be over 6 feet tall. Most of them will be 6'4", 6'6", something like that. They're big. Dutch people are extremely tall too. Your average Dutch person is well over 6 feet. And so, with better nutrition, people are getting taller again. But historically, just things have been getting smaller. But yeah, you could have whole tribes of giants, and like the Patagonian giants and things like that, or say islands full of giants like Tonga or Samoa. One of the interesting stories in Hawaii is the Menehune, who are these little people. So you have these hobbit type people and pygmies running around. They say that the country with the smallest people in the world is Guatemala. And that's because of the Mayans. the Mayans in Guatemala are very, very short, and the women particularly. Guatemala has the shortest women in the world, and many of the women, particularly women, but men too, are barely 5 feet tall or well under that. And if you go into the highlands of Guatemala, yeah, you're often surrounded by whole villages of people who are barely 5 feet tall. So you see a lot of that. And it's interesting. I mean, the tallest person who was ever recorded was actually a Robert Wadlow from Southern Illinois. But he was a pituitary giant in the sense that he had a glandular problem. And he could hardly stand up on his own legs and things. A true giant is someone who is really physically shaped, as you know, in every way to be much larger, bigger bones. I mean, they're just bigger and they're stronger. I mean, we look at a basketball court. And they're athletes too. I mean, that's what I mean. Robert Wadlow had to wear iron braces in order to walk. But yeah, other people who are 8 feet tall or something, they don't need that. They're perfectly normal athletically. But I'll tell you, stories of Bigfoot. Some stories of Bigfoot claim that Bigfoot is 12 to 15 feet tall that they meet. Meeting a Bigfoot who's 15 feet tall, I mean, that is something. Yeah, and meeting anyone, when you just meet someone who's 8 feet tall, you're blown away by how tall they are and again, it's like how tall you are compared to them. So, but yeah, there are giants, I think, not like the giants in the beanstalk, but whole races of people who were much